Welcome to TWIN BUSCH Germany, your competent specialist since 1997 in professional vehicle workshop equipment. With a corporate headquarters in Germany and 10 other branches in 7 countries, as well as over 40 sales partners worldwide, we are one of the leading manufacturers of vehicle lifts, wheel balancers, and tire changers. Hello, we will now show you how to assemble your TW436P-D2 double parking lift. Your lift is delivered in 2 packages. Additionally, you will need 10 liters of hydraulic oil for the operation, which must be ordered separately. Between the platforms you will find the posts, the cross beams, as well as other parts of your lift. Remove the access ramps. The bolts holding the posts will be removed now. Take out the front post on the right first. Behind it you will find the package with the motor unit, the control box and the box with the small parts. Take out and open the package with the motor unit. Now, take out the control box and the box with the small parts. Open the box with the small parts and check all parts are present and correct. We will then take out the 3 remaining posts. There are more parts on the lower platform. Here we see the post's top plates. Take out all the remaining parts between the posts. You will find the manual for your lift under the jack support on the right. Read the manual carefully before continuing with the assembly. To take out the cross beams from the package in the back, we make some space between both packages. Take out the cross beams with at least 2 strong persons. The cross beams can also be moved with a suitable lifting device. A few words about the placement of your lift. Before the installation, you should consider where you want to place the main post. The main platform with the hydraulic cylinder and the cross beam sides with the cables must be placed on the same side. From our perspective, the main post can be placed either on the front right or back left corner. Also, make sure there is enough clearance from the surrounding walls. Additionally, the lift can be moved and newly aligned anytime with the optionally available mobile kit. It is beneficial to put blocks under the cross beams to move them easily. Lay the first crossbeam on its side. The cables on the crossbeam must be on the same side where the main platform will be placed later. Here we see the main post, which can be recognized by the supports for the motor and the control box. In our case, this post will be used later during the installation of the front crossbeam. Position 2 simple posts for the rear end of the lift. The posts must be placed so that the inner side with the ladder faces the crossbeam. Now we insert the ladder into the guide provided in the crossbeam. We push the ladder until it reaches the first locking position. All ladders must be locked in the same locking position. Then we slide the post on the gliders from the crossbeam. Put blocks under the post for an easier installation of the top plate. Make sure to install the correct plate on the respective post. When standing, the free holes for the steel cables must point inwards to the center of the lift, as shown here from above. Remove the nut and shim from the ladder and guide the threaded rod through the provided hole on the top plate. Put on the shim and nut from the outside. The safety locks will be adjusted exactly after the installation. Repeat these steps on the other side of the crossbeam. Then the rear posts can be erected. Repeat this process with the front side. Pay attention to the cables on the crossbeam here as well. Here we see the main post, which is installed on the front right corner of the lift. Now the front side can be erected. You can recognize the main platform by the 3 holes for hydraulic and electrical connections. Because we need this platform last, we switch the position of the 2 packages. We can now unbolt the first platform and position it. We put blocks under the frames to make space for our engine crane. Then we lift up the first platform with an engine crane or another suitable lifting device and we position the platform. You should approximately align the posts before lowering the platform. Lower the platform onto the crossbeams but hold it under light tension until the platform and the crossbeams have been bolted together. Pay attention. For each platform pair, the edges for the sliding jack supports and for the optional oil drip trays must point inwards. Insert the bolts and the end plates. These will be then secured from the inside with spring washer and nut. Tighten the bolts lightly. These bolts will be firmly tightened when all the platforms are installed. Then the second platform is transported and installed almost exactly as the first. The only difference here is that this platform must be turned over before being moved. Now the second platform pair is unbolted and positioned. For this, we put blocks under the frames first. Since we need the main platform last, we will put it aside for now. Lift the lower platform lightly now and loose the bolts from the transport frames. Then you can remove the transport frames from both sides. The lower platform is lowered now and turned over before its transportation and placement. Before we position the main platform, we loose the cables on both cross beams. Here we see the main platform and the 3 holes for the hydraulic and electrical connections. Now the 4 platforms can be tightly bolted. Remove all cable ties under the main platform. Take off the protective cap as well as the nut and shim from the hydraulic hose under the platform. Then the shim will be put back on, and the end of the hose will be guided through the middle hole and secured from the outside with shim and nut. Before we go on with the assembly, let's take a look at the finished steel cable guidance for a better understanding. From the hydraulic cylinder in the main platform, 4 steel cables are firstly directed to the rear end of the platform and from there via pulleys to the top of the 4 posts. When the hydraulic cylinder contracts, all 4 cables pull the platforms evenly upwards. To make the laying of the cables easier, we have numbered the posts and cable ends. To lay the steel cables, remove the protective covers from the pulleys on both cross beams. Then the cylinder must be pulled out. Remove the nuts at the end of the first cable to guide it. Then pull the cable. After that, the cable will be guided through the opening between the crossbeam and the platform. Then we thread the rope onto the pulley and the small pulley for the cable slack protection. We fit the cable end through the provided hole on the top plate and fix it with a nut. Here we see one of the longer cables which are guided through the platforms towards the other side. The two remaining cables must then be laid in the respective way. Here we see the finished laid cables under the main platform. Let's focus on the control box. Cable ties and the screws for fixing the control box can be found inside. The control box will be screwed on the main post now. To mount the motor unit, we first put two screws with shim, spacer, spring washer and nut in the upper holes of the motor. The motor unit will be hung next. Insert the two lower screws now. Then, firmly tighten all 4 screws. Now the limit switch will be installed. To do this, the 2 screws on the back have to be removed first. Install the limit switch at the top of the main post as shown here. Turn the sensor arm 90 degrees upwards and fix it in this position. Then guide the cable of the limit switch through the provided hole on the main post and into the control box. Please note, the following electrical installation should only be carried out by a qualified electrician. Connect the limit switch cable to the connections in the control box using its numbers. Guide the cables of the motor unit and the cable of the release valve into the control box. The exact wiring can be found in the instruction manual. Now the control box can be closed again. Let's focus on the hydraulic and ventilation hoses. Remove the spring from the hydraulic hose. Tie the straight end of the hydraulic hose to one end of the ventilation hose with a cable tie. Then slide the hoses through the spring. You can now remove the cable tie. Tighten the motor's hydraulic connection. Then, connect the hydraulic hose to the motor's hydraulic connection. Tighten the vent connection as well. After that, connect the ventilation hose. Establish the hydraulic connection between motor and platform now. To fill the oil tank, the magnetic coil of the release valve will be removed first. Fill the tank with 5 to 6 liters of HLP32 oil. The remaining 4 to 5 liters will be added later. Mount the magnetic coil again. Make sure that all hydraulic connections are firmly tightened. After connecting the lift to a power source, it can be turned on and raised for the first time. Press and hold the side button as well to ignore the cable slack protection while lifting up. Pay attention to the level on the oil tank while going up. The oil level should not sink to a point where the pump can suck air. Then you can fill the remaining 4 to 5 liters of hydraulic oil. Subsequently, lift up almost to the top to continue the installation. Guide the ventilation hose through the platform's right hole. Then, connect the ventilation hose to the cylinder. Let's focus on the installation of the safety release system. First, remove the rod connector, and also the spring washer and nut from the release lever. Now we insert the release lever in the provided hole and put on the nut and then the spring washer from the inner side. The rod connector follows. After that we remove the nut and spring washer from the threaded rod under the platform, and put the nut and spring washer back on inversely. Now you can screw the long threaded rod with the release lever via the rod connector. The opposite side of the release system follows. This side will be installed almost exactly as the other side. Remove the rod connector, spring washer and nut from the end piece. A small change follows next. The rod connector from the end piece will be connected to the threaded rod first. The release rods, which we can see here next to the blue foot guards, follow now. To fit the long rod through the guiding holes on the crossbeam, the screwed ball joint on one of the sides of the bar has to be removed first. Check that the guiding holes are turned out far enough while sliding the rod through the holes. The rod should not be bent and should move easily during later operation. The ball joint is screwed back on now and fixed to the release lever on the crossbeam. Subsequently, the other ball joint can be bolted to the release mechanism with the supplied bolts. The short release rod follows after that. Make sure that the rod is long enough so it does not twist the release mechanism. All connections are firmly tightened now. Repeat all the steps for mounting the rods on the opposite side. We now screw the rods of the manual release together. Keep in mind that the levers at the start and end of the release rods should not be twisted. For this reason, always secure the release rod against unintentional turning with an open end spanner during the tightening process. Here we see the second side. We now set in the provided screws under the pulleys to secure the steel cables, and we fix them with a locking nut from the inside. Now, the multi-cable is connected to the control box. The slack cable protection switches are connected to the control box with this cable. The mounting ring must be removed from the other end of the cable. Then the electrical connections can be pushed through the provided hole on the platform. Now the electrical connections are guided through the mounting ring again and screwed from the inside of the platform. Then we guide the cables, which come from the cross beams, through the duct in the interior of the platform to subsequently connect them with the multi-cable. Now you can connect the cables to the multi-cable using their letters. Do not be bothered by the fact that the letters appear twice. In this case, it is irrelevant which A socket is connected to which A plug. During this process, the pre-laid cables under the platform are also connected to the multi-cable. Before we continue with the assembly on the other side of the platform, all cables that are hanging from the platform have to be tied under the platform with the provided cable ties. Here we see the cables on the rear side. The cables can now be plugged to the connecting cable under the platform based on their letters. Afterwards, these cables will also be tied with cable ties. Now we lower the lift down to a height that is comfortable for us to continue with the assembly. Mount the foot guards now. To do this, the pre-mounted screws on the platform will be removed first. Then the foot guard is simply screwed. The protective covers of the steel cable mechanism are mounted again now. Here we see the access ramps. These should be mounted only when driving cars onto the lift. And here we see the sliding jack supports and the roll-off protections. Finally, we lift the platforms completely to test the limit switch. If the lift is used solely as a parking lift, it is not necessary to anchor it to the floor. But if you use it for assembly work or repairs, it should be anchored to the floor. We will now show you how to anchor your lift to the floor using the heavy-duty anchor bolts with the example of a 2-post lift. Pay attention to the required depth of the drill hole and the concrete thickness. If the anchor bolts are not fixed correctly or if the concrete does not conform to the technical requirements, this could affect the stability of the lift. The exact technical requirements can be found in the instruction manual. To fix the anchor bolts, the lift must not be moved. Drill vertically and pay attention to the required depth of the drill hole. Be sure to remove all dust and debris from the drill hole. Drive in the anchor bolt carefully and straight, using a sledgehammer. Before tightening the nuts, check your posts to make sure they are correctly aligned and level. If necessary, you can level the posts with the delivered spacers. When the posts are aligned, tighten the nuts with the required torque according to the manual using a torque wrench. After the assembly, watch also our tips and tricks video for a perfect adjustment of the safety locks and cable tension of your parking lift.